Hello everyone, welcome back to our YouTube live today. Can you all hear me? I see some of you are already here. Thank you for saying hello. I hope you are all well. And please do let me know in the chat if you can hear me. So if you don't know who we are already, we are Cercle des Langues. We are an English language school 100% funded by CPF. So you can check us out on our website by typing Cercle des Langues into Google. And you can also find us on Instagram by again typing in Cercle des Langues. So welcome back to our series, Brilliant Business English. This is a 5-part series. We are going through the most useful business scenarios. So no matter your level, this series will help you feel more comfortable with some key business vocabulary and phrases. And this is the 4th episode of the series. And today we are going to learn how to manage a business trip. So we're going to look at the English that will allow you to get by on your travels no matter what your business reason for traveling. And today we are going to divide the live into 3 parts. In part 1, we will explore some useful vocabulary and phrases related to travel. In part 2, we're going to go through some of the processes of planning and organizing a business trip. And in part 3, we will be having a short quiz to test your knowledge. So make sure you're all listening. And today, to help me take a closer look at some of the tasks you might have to do to help a business trip run smoothly, I am welcoming a very special guest today, Ines, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, hi Swazik, I'm Ines. I'm 25 years old, I'm from Lille, but some of you might know me already. I'm so glad to be here tonight to talk about business trips. Thank you, Cecilia, for having me.
Thank you so much, Ines, for coming, and we will be seeing you again later. Right, so to get things started, we are going to have a look at some vocabulary related to traveling. And to start off with, we're going to have a look at some vocabulary related to air travel. So to start with, we have airline. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this term. We have like Air France, British Airways. Most countries have their own airline, and it is the company that run the planes. So when you want to book some travel, you need to book with an airline, and they will run the flights that you can be taking. Next is the airport. So this is quite similar to, of course, the word in French, but the airport is where you go to take your flight. So you arrive at the airport for your flight, and it is where all the flights take off from. Next up, we have a passport. This is important all the time when you are traveling from a different country. Especially if you're traveling outside of the Schengen zone or outside of Europe, you need to show your passport. And this is your identification document that proves where you come from and also that you have a right to travel. And sometimes, if your passport doesn't allow you to travel to certain areas, you might have to get a visa additionally. Unfortunately now for me, obviously I'm from the UK, and after Brexit, it's a bit more complicated for us to travel, so sometimes we need visas even just to come to France, which wasn't previously necessary. So another key item you need to look after while you are traveling at the airport is your boarding pass. Now this is the piece of paper you receive that tells you your seat number, your flight number, all the details so that you know about your flight, but then you also present it when you go to board. Of course, it's called a boarding pass, so it allows you to board. So next we have some different types of luggage. Now luggage is the suitcases, the bags that you take with you when you are traveling. Perhaps if you're only going for a very short trip and you don't need very many items, you can just take hand luggage, or some people call it carry-on luggage. And this is luggage that fits above your head in the aeroplane. There is usually that cabinet above your head, or it might fit under the seat in front of you. But hand luggage is luggage that you bring in the cabin with you on the flight. And then we also have hold luggage. Now, this is luggage that is going to go in the hold, so underneath all the seats in the plane, and you have to give this luggage over to the airline so they can load it onto the aeroplane for you. Now, a garment bag, you might have had to use this if you've travelled perhaps with a suit, or if you were going to a formal event and you needed to bring a dress of some sort, or some other formal item that you didn't want to get creased or crushed in your hold luggage. So I'm sure you've seen people with them if you haven't used them yourself. It's a bag and it has a hanger inside. So a hanger is that item you use in your wardrobe to hang up your clothing. And it's a hanger surrounded by a bag, and that allows you to keep your item, your clothing item, flat, but also keep it protected so it doesn't get scrunched up. And we also have flight attendants. Of course, you're always very happy to see flight attendants on a flight. They take great care of you. You know they're going to be there in case of an emergency. They are the team on the flight who deliver food and make sure you all have your seatbelts on. So this is a flight attendant, or an air hostess sometimes called. So now the process of, once you've arrived at the airport, you need to check in. So the check-in desk or check-in is where you go to get your boarding pass. And so you will need to show your passport at check-in. And usually you also will check in your bag. Now some airports are a little bit more high-tech and they get you to check in at a machine. So you input all your passport details at a machine, and then you take your bag to a bag drop. So a bag drop is similar to a check-in, except they don't give you your boarding pass. They simply take your bag and put a label on it, that sticky piece of paper that gives information about your flight, and then your bag is taken away. This is for hold luggage only. So your gate. Of course, once you want to get on an aeroplane, you need to get onto the aeroplane, actually do that. And the place around the airport where the aeroplanes are standing, waiting to have passengers come on board, is called the gate. So I'm sure you might have seen on a screen, it will say, this flight is leaving from gate A17 perhaps. And this is the area where you need to go to actually board the plane. Next, we have baggage reclaim. So, of course, once you've been on your flight, after all the luggage that you've checked in is still not with you, and you need to get that luggage back. And so you head over to the baggage reclaim, which is where the carousels are. So these are the turning conveyor belts where all of your luggage comes out of the aeroplane. And you can come and pick up your luggage at the baggage reclaim. Now, there are two sides sometimes when you're on a flight. When you're getting on the flight, you need to go through customs or security. And this is where you let them scan your bag. So when they scan your bag, you put it into the machine and they take a sort of X-ray so they can see what is inside your bag. And then in customs, they're checking for any items, maybe like lots of alcohol or fruits or things that you might not be allowed to bring into a particular country. And some people also call security when you are showing your passport too. So that's like passport control or security. Now, here are some different types of flights you might have to take. Well, I suppose a layover isn't a type of flight, but a layover is when you take, for instance, a connecting flight, as I mentioned here. So a connecting flight is a flight where you take one part of the journey. So for instance, if I was taking a connecting flight to New York and I took a flight first from London to Paris, and then from Paris to New York, because it's a 2-part flight and I have to get a connecting flight. And if, for instance, my flight from London to Paris landed at 2 p.m, but my flight from Paris to New York doesn't take off till 10 p.m, then that gap in between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. is my layover. Exactly, so a layover and a stopover are the same thing. And then if you are lucky enough to get a direct flight where you don't have to stop off, because of course stopping is quite boring, then it's a direct flight. So yes, now we will move on to some vocabulary related to traveling by train. So first of all, we have the station. Now this is like the airport is to an aeroplane, station is to a train where all the trains depart from and arrive into. And yes, you go here if you want to get your train. Now, of course, before you travel, you need to make sure you have paid for your travel. And so you must buy a ticket. And a ticket is the little piece of paper, or it might be now on your phone, on an app or something. A ticket shows that you are able to travel. It proves that you have bought the right to travel. Now, the platform. This, again, might have been seen on a screen. A platform is the specific area where the trains come into and go out of. So it's usually a long stretch of sort of concrete or something, and you wait there for your train to come, and then you can board the train from the platform. Now, when you're booking your ticket, you might want to decide what type of seat you want to sit in. So we have 2 types of seat. We have an aisle seat. So the aisle is the sort of corridor that goes down the middle of a train or a plane. Planes have aisles too. And that's where you can walk down if you want to walk down the length of the train or the length of the plane. And a seat that is next to this corridor is called an aisle seat. And then we have a window seat. And of course, that is a seat that is directly next to a window. You can let me know in the chat. It's always a controversial topic. Is it better to have a window seat or an aisle seat, particularly on a plane? So let me know what you think. And then we also have a carriage or a coach. So this is also another thing that might appear on your ticket. It might say what coach or what carriage you're in. And of course, a train is not just one long structure. It is divided into different carriages or coaches, and they are numbered to allow you to find them easily. So Zeke, sorry, I'm just looking at your question. No, so a row would be, imagine you have 3 seats next to each other. That's a row. And then the aisle is the bit down the middle that you can walk down, if that makes sense. So an aisle is the gap in the middle. If you're looking at a row that has 3 seats and then 3 other seats, the aisle is down the middle, but the row is the seats themselves. So, sorry, where were we up to? Carriage and coach. Next, we have a conductor. So a conductor is the person who comes down and checks your tickets. So of course, you do not want to be caught out by the conductor if you haven't bought a ticket. It's always important to buy your ticket. And then also, depending on how long the train ride is, there might be a buffet or a dining car. So that would be a buffet car or a dining car. And this is the coach carriage on a train where you can get food. Next, so we have a seat. We've already talked about an aisle seat or a window seat. A seat is where you sit down. You have seats on planes and also on trains. Now, lots of different types of travel and ticket are divided up by class. So you might have first class or second class or standard class. So first class is the fancy area. You might get a little nicer service, nicer food, probably some bigger seats with more leg room. I don't know if you know this word leg room, but that means space to stretch out your legs. So there'll be a bigger space in between your seat and the seat in front of you. And then second or standard class is what most people travel in. It's sort of regular class and is usually the cheaper option. So then we have departure and arrival. So these are important words for being able to look at different boards. So departure is something leaving, a train that's departing is leaving, and then an arrival is a train that is coming in. And a fare. So the fare is the amount of money that you need to buy a ticket. So the fare for a train might be €5 or it might be €15. It's just the amount of money. And finally, two different types of ticket. So you can buy a one-way ticket, which allows you just to go in one direction, for instance, from London to Paris. And then if you wanted to return, you would need to buy another ticket. Whereas a return is where you buy both directions at the same time. So London to Paris and Paris to London, all in one ticket. And just another small thing for when you're looking at notice boards, some different flights or trains will have statuses. So for instance, a train or a plane might be on time, meaning the service is running at the correct time. It might be delayed, which means that the service will be leaving later than expected. If a service shows up as cancelled, this means the service will no longer be running. Very, very annoying moment when a plane or a train is cancelled and you need to find another way to travel. Boarding, that means that they're calling people to the gate or to the platform, and if you're a passenger, you need to go to the plane or the train that you need to catch. And go to gate, this is more specifically for airports, but if you see that announcement, then you need to go to the gate that has been listed. Gate closed. If you see this is a moment to sprint to the gate, because this means that passengers are no longer able to board, and you might have missed your plane or train. So those are some key vocabulary just to start off with traveling. So now we're going to have a look at planning a business trip. And to do this, I'm going to bring back my special guest, Ines. So we'll look at two scenarios. So in scenario 1, Ines is calling up a hotel in London to make a reservation for an upcoming business trip. So let's go, Ines. We'll have to pretend that we are on the phone, of course. So I'll pretend. I've just picked up the phone. So, hello, London Eye Hotel. How can I help you?
Hello, I'm calling to inquire about some rooms for July, please.
Of course. What dates do you have in mind?
I'd like to go from the 8th to the 11th of July, so 3 nights in total.
Okay. And what type of room would you be after?
We're going to be a group of 8. We'll need 2 singles, a twin, and a double.
I'll see what we have available. For those dates, we do have 2 singles and a double, but we don't have a twin. Could I perhaps suggest a single with a truckle bed?
Do you have 2 more singles available?
Yes, we do, but they're road view rooms. Is that okay?
Yes, that should be fine. And is breakfast included?
If you take the half board or full board package, then yes, but it does not come free with the room.
Okay, please, could we have half board, please? Sure.
Great. Thank you so much, Ines. We'll be coming back in a moment to hear more from you.
Thank you.
So now we are going to have a closer look at some of the expressions used in that little exchange. So to use the phrase to inquire about or make an inquiry about is used to find out something. So Ines said, I want to inquire about some rooms. It's basically just a way to find out some information. To inquire is to ask after some information. So then if we're talking about dates, booking dates, of course, your stay is going to span a couple of days. So you can say from the 8th to the 11th. So this could be using dates, but you could also say days. So you could say from the Friday to the Monday. This is just a way of letting them know the range of time you're wanting to stay. Next, of course, the room. So when you're staying in a hotel, you are going to be booking a room. This is the place where you sleep. They'll have obviously your beds in there and any other things you might request, but you'll be asking after a room. And there are a few different types of room that you can book when you're in a hotel. So first of all, there is a single. A single is a room which has one bed in, but it's a bed that's only got space for one person, so a single bed. Then we have a twin room. A twin room is intended for two people, but those two people will have their own beds. So it's a single room with two separate beds in. And those beds are, again, single beds. And then finally, there is a double. So a double is, again, a room meant for two people, except they are both going to be sharing a bed. So they will have a double bed. And I use the phrase a road view room. So if it's a something view room, that means that when you look out of the window in that room, you see, for instance, the road, or you see the sea, if it's a sea view room. And of course, if you're trying to give your clients or something a lovely experience, perhaps booking a road view room is not going to be the most enjoyable for them. So now the word available, this just means that it's free, means that someone can stay in it. And then the two different types of packages I mentioned are half board, which is where you get your breakfast and one other meal included. So that could be your dinner or your lunch. And then there's full board, which is where you have all your meals included. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And finally, of course, if you want to inquire whether or not perhaps breakfast is included, or if a little activity is included, you just use the phrase is, insert whatever you're asking about, and then included. And of course, there may be moments where you want to find out a little more, you might need help finding your way around, or you want to plan an incredible trip for your clients. You can speak to the concierge, and the concierge is the desk at the front. So here are some questions you might ask. You might like to say, is there a swimming pool around here, to know if there's one in the local area? Or if you want to find out how to get somewhere, you can say, how do we get to the park, for instance, and they might show you on a map or just give you some instructions. Similarly, if you need to know your way around, you can say, where will I find the nearest tube stop, for instance. And then perhaps you might like them to do a favor for you and book a taxi. So you could say, please, could you book us a taxi at whatever time you need the taxi? And then you might like to find out perhaps if there's a gym. You might like to say, is the gym 24 hours? So can I go there day and night, or can I only go there between certain hours? And finally, you might like to ask after room service. And now room service is where they take food or other items that you might want up to your room. So now we're going to have a look at another scenario. So in this case, Ines is speaking to me, her colleague, about an upcoming business trip. So again, we're going to be on the phone. So hello Ines, I'm just calling to make sure you're up to date on the plans for the business trip next week.
Great.
So the flight's at 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. I've arranged a car to pick us up from the airport, and we will be going straight to dinner.
Okay, great. I'll make sure I have something suitable in my hand luggage.
Then, in terms of the itinerary for the following couple of days, day 1 is all meetings, then we're having dinner at the hotel. On the second day, we'll be in meetings for the morning, then we're going on a sightseeing tour around the city.
A tour? That sounds like fun. Can I ask where the meetings are going to be held?
Of course, there's a business centre in the hotel, so we've booked a meeting room in there. We'll be there for the weekend. Oh, and there's also a spa in the hotel, so bring a swimsuit.
I will.
Thank you so much again, Ines. Starring role. So again, we'll have a look at some of the expressions that were used in that dialogue. So if you want to talk about, obviously, plans, when something is going to happen, so your transport, perhaps the flight, the train, you might even say the taxi is at. Is just used before a time, so the flight or train is at 6:30, and this is how you let someone know when they need to be ready. I have arranged. Of course, if you are taking the host role or you're in charge of planning the trip, you'll need to let people know what they have in store. So you can say, I have arranged. This means I have planned. I have arranged a taxi to pick us up. I have arranged for us to go somewhere. And you might have arranged for a taxi to pick you up from. So you can say it's going to pick us up from, it's going to pick them up from. It means that you're going to, it means they're going to pick you up. So in the taxi, you'll get in the taxi and then they will take you somewhere else. And if you want to say you are going straight to, perhaps you're going straight from the hotel to the airport. This means you're not going anywhere in between and you might not have time to change or you might not have time to go back. So that's why Ines said, I will make sure I have something suitable in my hand luggage, because she doesn't want to have to rummage around her hold luggage, her big suitcase, and instead will just keep something close to hand. And in terms of planning, all of the things that you have planned are called your itinerary. So this is the list of events that you have perhaps planned out. Maybe you're inviting your clients to do something fun like a sightseeing tour. This will all be on the itinerary. And then again, if you're having to do meetings or something at a hotel, you might be looking out for a hotel that has a business center. So this is an area of a hotel where there are meeting rooms which might have things like computers or printers, the sorts of things you need if you are still doing business while you're away. And of course, if you're planning a business trip, this could be really useful. And then again, to talk about planning, if you want to talk about when something's going to be happening, you can say on the, for instance, third night, on the second night. It's just a way of letting someone know the order in which things are going to be happening. Now, finally, there is something in the hotel. So of course, in this case, there's a spa in the hotel, there's a business center in the hotel. This is how you talk about the facilities, or sometimes called amenities, that a hotel has. So these are the facilities, maybe a pool. There's a pool in the hotel. It's just a phrase to let someone know. And if you're helping someone pack, of course, you want to let them know what they're going to need. So you can say, bring a swimsuit, or you could say, I don't know what else you might need. Bring a suit, bring a smart outfit if you're going out for a lovely dinner. So now we're going to go back to Ines. So Ines, I wanted to ask you, have you ever been on a business trip? Oh, Ines, I can't hear you. Sorry.
I've never been on a business trip so far, but I used to work for a company called Hewlett-Packard, and we were supposed to go to Las Vegas together last year. I was so excited to discover this new place, new people, and business trips are also an opportunity to get to know better the people you're working with. Unfortunately, this trip was cancelled, and I think you know why. And I also worked in London when I was a bit younger, and I think this city would be really nice to go on a business trip as well.
Wow, Las Vegas, that would have been a crazy business trip. That's so sad that you weren't able to go.
Yeah.
But it is so true, of course. If you can socialize a bit, of course, on a business trip, you might have to work, but it's nice to do some other events, some activities that will definitely allow you to get to know your colleagues a bit better. Maybe we'll get to go on a business trip together someday, Ines.
I hope so.
Well, thank you so much. So now we are just going to have a look at some questions to test your knowledge. So to start off with, well, I hope you've all been listening and we get full marks. So to start off with, what do you call the piece of luggage you can carry a suit or a dress in? Please go ahead and write in the chat if you remember what this luggage item is called. Go ahead and write. Maybe you've used one, maybe you haven't. I always think people look very professional. Not quite. So it's not the baggage reclaim. It is the item that you would carry yourself. Yes, so we could put, it's true, we could put a suit or a dress in carry-on luggage. But if you remember, there was a very, very amazing, yes, Marie, you've got it. It is a garment bag. So yes, it needs to have the N, so a garment bag, which a garment is just an item of clothing, and then bag. So that is kind of self-explanatory on that front. So it is a garment bag. Next question. So you can number from left to right, picture 1, picture 2, and picture 3. What do we call each one of these? You can let me know. In picture 1, we're referring to the person, nothing else, in case it seems like there's a lot going on in the picture. So can anyone remember what we call the people who work on a plane like that? They usually have very nice coordinated outfits, as this person does. Matches the outside of the plane. Does anyone know? Yes, so Nicola, that's correct. 3 is an aisle seat. Does anyone know what? Yes, perfect. So Zeke, you've got it. A flight attendant for number 1. And does anyone know what number 2 is? Number 2 is looking a little bit old-fashioned, I will admit. I don't know how many how many of what these are look like this nowadays. Yes, Nicola, so a buffet or a dining car or coach. Exactly, it's looking a bit rickety. I don't know how keen I would be on going and eating in there. So yes, number 1 was a flight attendant. But in here you can see that the airline is like, I suppose, KLM written in here. Great, I think we have time for, exactly, so buffet or dining car, flight attendant and aisle seat. So you got them between you, very nice group effort. I think we have time for just one more question. So, what do we call a room that has 2 single beds in? This is a room for 2 people. Can anyone tell me what we call this type of room? Can anyone let me know? Yes, exactly. So very nicely done, Marie. It is a twin room. So remember, a double room is also for 2 people, but it only has 1 bed in. A double bed, which has 2 places for 2 people to sleep in the same bed, whereas a twin room has 2 beds in, 2 separate beds. It's confusing to have a single bed in a twin room and then a single room has just 1 single bed. But if you think twin, of course, that's 2 joined together. So it is a twin room, 2 single beds. Perfect. Everyone got that. Great. I'll just make sure. Yes, twin was correct. So perhaps we'll just do the final question. What would we call this kind of room? Maybe I haven't been specific enough. I should direct your attention over to the left-hand side of the image. Based on what you can see at the far left of the image, what would we call this kind of room? Yes, very close, but we need a little bit more detail than that. That phrase doesn't really mean anything by itself. So what exactly can you see? If you perfect, Christelle. So it's a sea view room. So we can't refer to it something as just a view room. It needs to be a something view room. So a sea view room or a road view room, or perhaps a car park view room. Maybe not the most pleasant, but you can have exactly, we always need to put what you have the view of in front of view. You can't just have a view room by itself. It could be a pool view room. Exactly. Go ahead and write some more suggestions. Maybe you've stayed in some hotel rooms which have really amazing views. So if you have, Do write a mountain view room, perhaps a forest view room. The possibilities are endless. So it is a sea view room. Great. Well, that brings us to the end of our YouTube Live for this week. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. It was so nice to see you. I enjoyed your participation. Remember, we are here every week at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. So do tell your family and friends. Next week, we will be continuing with the final episode of our business series. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all our upcoming videos and content. And thank you so much again, Ines, for coming. It was absolutely lovely to see you, star of the show, and it was great to hear about your previous attempt at a business trip.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.